The spaceship floated in silence, far above a burning red planet. Its steel walls hummed with power. Inside, in a long, cold corridor, a single human soldier stood straight, his boots firm on the ground. His uniform was torn from battle, but his eyes were sharp, calm, and watchful. Across from him, a group of alien warriors blocked the way. They were tall, their silver skin glowing faintly under the ship's lights. Their eyes were like mirrors, reflecting every movement. Each one carried strange weapons, curved like claws. The air was heavy, filled with tension, as if the smallest sound could break the silence into fire. Among the aliens, one girl stepped forward. She looked younger than the others, but her eyes burned with curiosity. Unlike the other warriors, who only glared with anger, she wanted to know something. She tilted her head and looked at the human closely. Her voice was sharp, yet full of confusion. "Human, why do your females go first? Why do you step aside for them?" The corridor echoed with her question. The other aliens laughed. To them, the idea sounded foolish. In their world, only the strongest walked first. The weak stayed behind, or they were crushed. But this girl was different. She was not laughing. She truly wanted to understand. The human did not answer quickly. He only looked at her, his face unreadable. His silence was heavier than words, and it made the aliens shift uneasily. Finally, he gave a small smile. Not a friendly smile, but a quiet one, as if he knew something they did not. "You really want to know?" he asked. The girl's sharp eyes narrowed. "Yes, I want to know. You protect them, you move aside for them, you let them lead. It makes no sense. Are they stronger than you?" Her voice grew louder, and the warriors behind her hissed, their sharp teeth glinting. The human remained calm. He didn't raise his voice, didn't move an inch. Instead, he asked, "Tell me, alien, in your world, who gives life? Who carries the next generation?" The girl blinked, confused. She had expected him to speak about strength, about weapons or battle. But this was not an answer she had thought of. "Our people are born in the birthing pools," she said quickly. "Strength decides who survives. Life is not a gift. It is a fight." The human nodded, as if he had guessed her answer. "And that," he said softly, "is why you cannot understand us yet." The alien girl stepped closer. Her shadow stretched across the metal floor, reaching the human's boots. She stared at him with intensity. "Then make me understand. Show me why you humans are so strange. Why you let your females walk first." The human looked around. The corridor lights flickered, as if the ship itself was listening. He leaned slightly forward and whispered, almost to himself, "You may regret asking that." The alien girl's heart beat faster. She could feel something in his tone, something dangerous, something that promised knowledge, but also fear. Behind her, the other warriors muttered, "Why waste words on this human?" One growled, "Crush him. Take what we want and leave." But the girl raised her hand, stopping them. She wanted to hear more. She wanted the answer. Her instincts told her that this human carried something important. Something powerful that was not in his weapons, but in his strange customs. The human finally moved. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, no larger than a coin. It glowed with blue light. He tapped it, and the wall behind him slid open with a hiss. A dark passage revealed itself, filled with shadows. Cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of oil and steel. The sound of machinery echoed inside, like the heartbeat of a giant beast. The human's eyes locked on the girl's. "If you want to understand," he said, his voice low and firm, "then follow me. But remember, once you see, you cannot unsee." The girl froze for a moment. Her mind raced. Part of her screamed that it was a trap. Another part, louder, told her this was the truth she had been searching for. Her fellow warriors hissed again, but she ignored them. She stepped forward, her eyes never leaving the human. The corridor behind her seemed smaller now, weaker. Compared to the dark unknown that waited ahead, the human turned and walked into the shadows, his steps steady, confident. The girl followed, her claws flexing nervously, and as the door slid shut behind them, the ship's corridor was left in silence again. Only the whisper of the girl's last thought remained in the air. Why do females go first? Human. What secret are you hiding from us? The dark passage swallowed them as the door closed behind. The air was colder here, heavy with dust and machine oil. Strange pipes ran along the walls, glowing faintly with blue light. Each step echoed like a drum bouncing back from the endless shadows. The human soldier walked ahead, his back straight, his footsteps steady. He didn't look afraid. His silence was stronger than words. And that silence made the alien girl's heart restless. Her name was Zyra, daughter of the 7th House of Warriors. She had fought in 10 battles, spilled blood in the name of her people, and never once felt doubt. But here, walking behind this quiet human, doubt crept into her chest like a shadow. Zyra clenched her jaw. Finally, her sharp voice cut through the silence. Human, answer me. Why do you do it? Why do you let your females walk first? Is it a trick? Do you think it makes you look noble? The human didn't stop walking. He only turned his head slightly, just enough for his voice to carry back. It is not a trick. It is a choice. Rule we follow. Zyra hissed, her tail whipping against the metal floor. A foolish rule. In my world, the strongest leads. If a male is stronger, he leads. If a female is stronger, she leads. But no one gives their place away. To do so is weakness. The human's boots tapped against the metal, steady as ever. You call it weakness because you have never seen the strength behind it. His words made her pause. Strength behind weakness. She had never heard such a thing. In her people's tongue, there was no word for honor. Only victory and survival. The corridor widened, opening into a large chamber. Machines lined the walls, blinking with colored lights. Strange screens flickered with human symbols Zyra could not read. In the center of the room stood a platform, glowing faintly. The human stopped. He finally turned to face her. His eyes, though tired from battle, burned with something she could not name. You want to understand? He asked. Zyra stepped closer, her claws clicking against the floor. Yes, I will know the truth. He pointed at the platform. Then watch. The platform lit up brighter. From hidden doors in the floor, mechanical drones rose up tall, armed and glowing with red light. Their heads turned with a metallic hum, their weapons locked onto the human and Zyra. Zyra's instincts kicked in. Her muscles tensed, claws ready. An ambush, she growled. But the human shook his head calmly. Not an ambush, a test. And the answer to your question, before Zyra could argue, another door opened and a human female stepped into the chamber. She wore the same uniform as the soldier, though smaller, lighter. Her hair was tied back, her face sharp with focus. She carried no heavy weapon, only a blade strapped to her side. Zyra blinked, confused. This fragile one was to face the machines. Surely she would be torn apart in moments. The drones beeped, scanning their targets. The female human stepped forward first, not the male, not the stronger-looking one. She walked past him, her hand resting calmly on her blade. Zyra's voice cracked with shock. She goes first. You let her walk into danger. The male soldier did not stop her. Instead, he took a step back, watching with quiet trust. Yes, he said softly. She goes first. The first drone lunged, its weapon swinging down. In a flash, the female soldier moved. Her blade cut through metal with a sound like thunder. Sparks flew as the machine fell in pieces at her feet. Zyra's eyes widened. The female's movements were fast, precise, filled with deadly skill. Another drone attacked. She rolled under it, cutting through its legs before it even landed its strike. Zyra's heart pounded. This was not weakness. This was power. But still, she did not understand. The male soldier joined the fight, but not to lead. He moved behind her, blocking attacks she could not see, firing at enemies that circled around her. Together, they moved like one body, one mind. She struck first. He protected. She opened the way. He held it safe. The aliens watching from the corridor gasped in disbelief. Their laughter from before had vanished. Now their eyes were wide, silent, unsettled. Zyra whispered to herself, almost afraid of her own words. She leads, and he follows. But why? Why would he give her the front? The last drone fell, its head rolling across the floor. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of the machines. The female soldier wiped her blade clean and looked back at Zyra. There was no pride in her eyes, no arrogance, only calm strength. She nodded once to the male, who nodded back. Zyra stepped forward, her chest heavy with confusion. I saw her fight. She is strong, yes, but you could have led too. You could have destroyed them. Why did you let her go first? Why do you humans always do this? The male soldier's eyes met hers. His voice was steady, almost gentle. Because to us, strength is not only in muscle or blade, it is in what we protect. And sometimes, we honor that strength by letting others lead. Zyra's claws trembled. Her people had no such idea. No one gave up their place. No one honored another above themselves. She wanted to argue. She wanted to shout that it was foolish, that it made no sense. But the image of the female soldier cutting through steel, with the male guarding her back, burned in her mind. She lowered her head, whispering to herself, strange humans. I do not understand you. Not yet. But deep inside, a seed of doubt had already been planted, and Zyra hated the feeling that one day she might understand. The training chamber was silent again. Sparks from the broken drones still glowed faintly on the floor, and the smell of burning wires filled the air. Zyra's eyes stayed on the female human, her mind spinning with questions. She had seen strength before. She had fought warlords and beasts that tore through steel. But this was different. This was strength mixed with something else, something she could not name. The male human soldier stepped forward. He stood between Zyra and the platform, his eyes calm but sharp. You have seen what we mean, he said. But words and a small fight are not enough. If you truly want to understand, then you must take the test. Zyra's claws flexed. A test, she hissed. I am no hatchling. I do not need games to learn, but the human shook his head slowly. This is not a game. This is truth, and truth must be faced, not spoken. The platform lit again. The walls around them shifted, sliding open to reveal another passage. This one was larger, darker, filled with a low humming sound that seemed alive. Red lights flickered in the distance, blinking like eyes waiting in the shadows. The female soldier sheathed her blade and nodded toward the passage. We'll show her, she said simply. Zyra's tail twitched. Part of her wanted to refuse. She hated the feeling of being tested, like a child. But another part stronger pushed her forward. Curiosity burned in her chest, hotter than her pride. The human male gestured toward the dark passage. Walk with us. See with your own eyes why females go first. The three stepped into the passage. The air was colder here, almost icy, and the walls were marked with scratches as if something had clawed at them. The humming grew louder, turning into a deep rumble. Zyra glanced at the human female walking slightly ahead. Her steps were firm, her hand resting near her blade. The male followed just behind, his weapon ready. Zyra stayed to the side, tense, every sense on high alert. Suddenly, the floor shook. A loud crash echoed from ahead. From the shadows, figures began to move. Not drones, not machines. These were something else, creatures tall. Insect-like monsters crawled from the walls, their bodies black and sharp. Their jaws dripping with green fluid that hissed as it touched the ground. Their many eyes glowed faintly, locking onto the intruders. Zyra hissed instinctively, claws raised. "What are these things?" The human male's voice was steady. "They are hunters, programmed to attack anything that moves. Faster and deadlier than the drones." The female soldier drew her blade. She stepped forward without hesitation. "Stay close," she said firmly. The first hunter shrieked, leaping with terrifying speed. Its claws slashed downward. The female met it head-on, sliding under its strike and cutting deep into its chest. The creature screeched and collapsed. Green fluid spilling across the floor before Zyra could move. Another came from the ceiling. She lunged, her claws piercing its neck. The alien warrior inside her roared with triumph. But even as she pulled her claws free, she saw the female soldier already cutting down another monster. Faster than Zyra expected. The human male stayed just behind, his weapon firing bursts of light. He didn't take the lead. He didn't rush forward. Instead, every shot was placed to protect the female, to keep her path clear, to cover the blind spots she could not see. Zyra's chest tightened. She was fighting too, but her eyes kept darting back to the humans. They moved like a dance, she leading, he guarding, both trusting each other completely. The hunters kept coming. From the walls, from the ground, from above. The air filled with screeches and the clash of steel and claws. At one moment, a hunter almost reached the male from behind. Zyra slashed it apart, saving him. For a second, his eyes met hers. He gave a nod of respect. No words, just a nod. Then, he turned back to cover the female again. The fight lasted minutes, but felt like hours. When the last hunter fell, its body twitching on the floor, silence slowly returned. The three stood among the corpses, breathing heavily, their weapons dripping with blood and fluid. Zyra's heart pounded. Her body was tired, but her mind was more restless than ever. She turned sharply to the human male. "You could have led. You are strong, yet you let her go first again. Why do you not see how dangerous it was? She could have died." The human's voice was calm, almost gentle. "Yes, she could have. So could I, so could you. But in danger, in the worst of battles, we show our trust. We honor those who walk first. We are ready to follow, to protect, to fight beside them. That is our strength," Zyra growled low, frustration boiling inside. "Trust, honor, empty words. In my world, no one gives their place away. To follow is to bow. To bow is to be weak." The female soldier wiped her blade and looked directly at Zyra. Her voice was quiet, but her eyes were sharp as fire. "Then perhaps your world does not know real strength." Zyra froze. The words cut deeper than claws. She wanted to snarl, to strike, to deny. But the image of their fight, the way the male gave space to the female, the way he shielded her without taking her place, would not leave her mind. For the first time in her life, Zyra had no answer. The humans walked ahead, into the dark, leaving her standing for a moment. Her claws trembled slightly. Her chest felt heavy, but her mind burned with questions. Finally, she followed, her voice whispering low to herself. Strange humans, your strength feels like weakness, yet it frightens me more than power ever has. The dark passage, finally, opened into a massive chamber. The ceiling rose high above, lost in shadows, and the floor was cracked metal, stained with marks of old battles. Strange machines, broken and rusting, lay scattered across the edges. In the center, the ground shimmered with faint blue lights forming a circle. The human male stopped at the edge of the circle. His eyes scanned the room with care. "This is the final stage of the test," he said. His voice carried a weight that made even Zira's scales crawl. Zira narrowed her eyes. "Final stage? You think I have not seen enough? I fought beside you. I cut down your monsters. What more can you show me?" The human female stepped into the circle. Her blade gleamed, her stance ready. "This time," she said, her voice steady, "we fight together. Against something that will not stop." As if her words were a signal, the chamber shook. The ground rumbled, and the broken machines around them began to rise. Their pieces twisted, their cores glowed red, and they reformed into towering mechanical giants. Each one was bigger than the drones and hunters before 10 feet tall, with blades for arms and glowing red eyes like burning coal. Zira's tail lashed the ground. Finally, a real fight. The giants stepped forward, their heavy feet shaking. The floor, the circle of blue light flared, trapping the three inside with the monsters. The first giant swung its massive blade arm down toward the human female. Zira lunged forward, ready to push her aside, but the female didn't move away. Instead, she rolled under the strike and slashed across the giant's leg joint. Sparks exploded, and the machine stumbled. The male soldier fired his weapon at the giant's head, blasting it apart. It fell with a crash, shaking the ground. Before they could breathe, 2 more giants rushed in. One targeted the male, the other charged directly at Zira. The alien warrior roared, her claws glowing as she slashed through metal. The giant's arm flew across the chamber, but its other arm struck her, sending her skidding across the floor. She slammed into the wall, her vision flashing white. Her head rang, but through the haze she saw the humans. The male had stepped in front of the female, blocking a strike with his weapon's shield. She leaped over his shoulder, using his cover to spring forward and drive her blade deep into the machine's chest. The teamwork was flawless, like they had fought together for a lifetime. Zira forced herself up, growling. Why? Why does he let her take the front? He could crush them himself. But even as she asked, she knew the answer wasn't simple. His actions weren't weakness. Every move was to guard her path, to give her the chance to strike. Another giant came for Zira, its blade raised high. She leaped aside, slicing at its knee, bringing it down. Before it could recover, the female soldier dashed in and cut its core. Apart, Zira stared, her chest burning with something she could not name. Admiration? Respect? No. She refused to admit it. The fight raged on. One by one, the giants fell, but each took all 3 of them working together to destroy. Zira fought. Harder than ever, but she could not ignore the humans. She kept glancing at them, seeing how they moved. The female always went first, fearless, striking with deadly precision. The male always followed just behind, never stealing her kill, never pushing her aside. He was the shield to her spear, the anchor to her storm. For a moment, Zira felt something strange. A thought whispered in her mind, if this is weakness, why does it feel stronger than anything I've seen? The last giant fell, its burning eyes fading into darkness. The chamber shook once more, and then silence. The blue circle faded away, leaving only the 3 standing among the wreckage. Zira's chest heaved, her claws dripping with oil and sparks. She turned toward the humans, her voice harsh. You risked everything. She could have died, yet you let her lead. Why? HFY. The male wiped sweat from his forehead, his face calm. Because she trusts me to protect her. And I trust her too. Strike first. That is how we win. The female soldier looked straight at Zyra, her eyes sharp and unwavering. You call it weakness, we call it respect. We honor our women because they carry life. We let them go first, not because they are weak, but because we choose to give them that place. And when danger comes, we stand behind them not to hide, but to guard. Zyra froze. The words struck her deeper than any blade. Her world had no such meaning. No one gave their place away. No one trusted like that. Her claws trembled as she whispered, respect, honor, trust. These are words my people do not know. The male soldier placed his weapon down slowly. Then learn them. Here, because until you do, you will never understand humans. For the first time in her warrior life, Zyra felt something heavier than battle scars. She felt doubt, and it terrified her more than any enemy. The chamber was quiet at last. Smoke rose from the wrecked machines, their red eyes dim and lifeless. The only sound was the heavy breathing of 3 warriors, 2 human, 1 alien standing. Together in the ruins, Zyra wiped green oil from her claws. Her muscles still burned, but her heart beat faster for another reason. She could not stop thinking about what she had seen. Every strike, every movement, every choice the humans made. It was different from anything her people would have done. The female soldier cleaned her blade calmly, as if the battle was nothing new. She gave a small nod to the male soldier, and he returned it with quiet respect. No words, no demands of glory, just trust. Just acknowledgement. Cyra could not hold back any longer. Her voice cracked with anger and confusion. Explain this madness to me, human. Why do you let her go first? Why do you step aside? She could have died and you followed as if it was natural. In my world, no one gives up their place. The male soldier looked at her, his eyes calm but firm. Silence stretched, heavy and unsettling. Finally, he spoke, because she deserves it. Zyra's jaw tightened. Deserves it? For what? She is skilled, yes, but so are you. You are strong. You could have destroyed those machines yourself. The female soldier sheathed her blade and walked closer to Zyra. Her voice was steady, but there was a weight in her words. We do not fight to prove who is strongest. We fight to protect each other. Humans give honor to our women because they carry life into the world. They are not only warriors, they are creators. That is why we let them lead. Zyra blinked, her eyes narrowing. Creators, what nonsense is this? The male soldier stepped forward now. He pointed to Zyra's chest with a firm hand. Tell me, alien, how are your people born? Zyra straightened proudly. In the birthing pools, eggs are placed in the fluid, and only the strongest hatchlings crawl out alive. The weak are consumed. That is how it has always been. The humans exchanged a glance, and then the male spoke softly. Then you do not understand. In our world, women carry children inside them. They bleed, they suffer, and they give life. With pain and courage. Every human alive begins because a woman endured. That is why we honor them. That is why we let them go first. Zyra froze. Her heart stumbled in her chest. The image in her mind was strange, even disturbing. Life carried inside flesh. Pain and courage before even the first breath. To her, life was a battle only after hatching. But here, with humans, the battle began inside. Her voice shook without her meaning it to. You You step aside because of this, because your females carry life. The female soldier's eyes softened, but her voice stayed strong. Yes, to us it is the greatest strength. Greater than blades, greater than armies. We fight battles, but they carry the future of our people. That is why we give them honor. That is why they walk first. Zyra's claws trembled. Her people had no such custom. In her world, respect was won only through killing, through victory. No one bowed. No one gave up their place. Yet as she looked at the humans, she saw no weakness. In them, the male was not less because he stepped aside. The female was not arrogant because she went first. Together, they were stronger than she had ever seen. Zyra's voice dropped low, almost a whisper. In my world, honor belongs only to warriors. The male soldier shook his head slowly. Then your world is blind. Honor belongs also to those who bring life, those who raise it, those who give without asking anything back. Our women do that. And so we give them our place not because they demand it, but because we choose it. Zyra felt her throat tighten. She wanted to argue, to spit venom at these strange words, but she could not. The image of the female leading the fight, while the male shielded her, burned in her mind. It was not weakness, it was something else, something she had never seen. The female soldier stepped closer. For the first time, her voice softened. You call us strange. Maybe we are. But ask yourself, Zyra, of the seventh house, if your people gave such honor, if your warriors fought not just for themselves, but for each other, how much stronger would you be? Zyra's chest ached. She turned her face away, but her claws curled tight. Deep inside, a crack formed in the wall of certainty she had carried all her life. Her voice was low, almost broken. My people would never accept this. They would laugh. They would call it weakness. The male soldier placed a hand on her shoulder, not with force, not with dominance, but with quiet strength. One day, they may learn. And maybe you will be the one to teach them. Zyra flinched at his touch, but she did not pull away. For the first time, she felt the weight of something she had never known before. Respect freely given, not taken. By force, she turned her eyes back to the humans. The fire of anger inside her was gone, replaced by something more dangerous. Curiosity. And as the chamber doors opened again, revealing another passage ahead, Zyra whispered to herself, Perhaps I'm the one who must change first. The chamber doors slid open with a heavy hiss, revealing a long corridor ahead. Unlike the others, this one pulsed with red warning lights. Sirens echoed in the distance, sharp and urgent. The ship itself seemed alive, groaning as if something terrible was about to happen. The human male glanced at the lights and frowned. This is no training. The ship's core is unstable. The female soldier's eyes narrowed. She tightened her grip on her blade. Then this test has become real. Zyra tilted her head, her scales prickling. Real? What do you mean? Is this part of your illusion? But before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them shook violently. The corridor walls cracked, sparks showering from broken wires. A deep alarm blared. Critical failure. Evacuate immediately. The humans exchanged a look. There was no fear in their eyes, only decision. The male spoke quickly, his voice sharp and commanding. We have to move. If the reactor collapses, this whole section will burn. The female nodded once. Then we lead them out. Zyra's heart pounded as they ran into the corridor. The floor trembled under their feet, and chunks of metal fell from the ceiling. Fire burst from broken pipes, filling the air with smoke and heat. Ahead, the passage narrowed. The walls groaned, as if about to collapse. Suddenly, the male shouted, Females first, move. The word struck Zyra like a blade. he wasn't speaking to only his partner. He was speaking to her as well. Her claws dug into the floor. What? Why would I go first? I am no weakling to be shielded. But the female grabbed Zyra's arm and pulled her forward with surprising strength. This is not about weakness. Go. Behind them, the ceiling gave way. Massive steel beams crashed down, blocking the path they had just crossed. Zyra stumbled forward, barely catching her balance. She looked back in shock. If she had hesitated a second longer, she would have been crushed. The male soldier stood under the fallen beams, holding one up with his shoulders just long enough for both females to get clear. His arms trembled, veins straining, but his eyes burned with determination. Go, keep moving, he shouted. The female soldier pulled Zyra again. They sprinted through the crumbling corridor, fire and smoke chasing their heels. Zyra's mind spun. She had been forced ahead while the male stayed behind to hold the danger. He risked himself without question, just to give them time. It was madness. Yet her chest tightened with something she did not want to admit. They reached another section where the floor had split open, exposing a deep pit of burning energy. A single narrow beam stretched across. The female soldier stepped forward first, her movements steady despite the danger. Zyra hissed, "You will fall." But the human crossed quickly, her balance perfect. She turned and held out her hand. "Now you." Zyra's claws scraped the metal beam as she crossed. The heat below burned her scales, and for the first time in years, real fear gripped her. But the female reached out, pulling her across with strength greater than Zyra expected. Then the male began to cross. Halfway through, the beam cracked with a loud snap. Zyra's eyes widened. It will break. Jump. But instead of saving himself, the male shouted again, "Females first." With a powerful motion, he threw his weapon across to the female soldier before leaping the rest of the way. The beam collapsed behind him, falling into the fire. He landed hard, rolling, his uniform scorched. Zyra's throat tightened. Again. And again, he risked himself not to claim glory, not to prove strength, but to ensure the females reached safety. They continued running, the alarms louder now. The corridor ahead twisted with smoke. The exit door flickered with failing lights. A sudden explosion ripped through the side wall, throwing Zyra off her feet. Debris rained down. She looked up in time to see a massive steel panel break loose. Falling toward her, she froze. For the first time in her life, she knew she could not move fast enough. But the male soldier was there. He slammed into her, shoving her out of the way. The panel crashed onto his back, pinning him to the floor. Sparks rained around his body. Zyra gasped, her claws trembling. "Why? Why would you do that for me? I am not even your kind." His voice came through the smoke, strained but firm. "Because you are female. Because that is our way. Go." The female soldier rushed to his side, straining to lift the panel. Zyra, shaken, dropped beside her, using her claws to dig into the steel. Together, they heaved the weight off his back. The male stumbled up, coughing, but still alive. For a heartbeat, Zyra just stared at him. Her chest burned, but not from the smoke, from something deeper. Something that shattered everything she had been taught. The three ran again, bursting through the final door just as the corridor behind them exploded in fire. They collapsed on the floor of the safer chamber, coughing, covered in ash and sweat. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Zyra's voice broke it, low and shaken. You risked your life for me. For her, for both of us. And not once did you push to go first." The male soldier looked at her, his face tired but steady. That is what it means to be human. Females first, always. Zyra's claws curled against the floor. Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. She could not deny it anymore. She had felt it. She had lived it. Her whisper was almost lost in the sound of the dying alarms. Perhaps your way is not weakness. Perhaps it is strength greater than I ever knew. The alarms had gone silent. The fire and smoke were behind them now, sealed behind heavy doors. The chamber where the three collapsed was quiet, almost peaceful compared to the chaos they had just escaped. Zyra lay on the cold floor, her chest rising and falling as she tried to steady her breath. Her scales were scorched, her claws cracked, and her muscles ached from the fight and the escape. Yet none of that mattered. What burned in her mind was not the pain, not the battle, but the words. Females first. She lifted her head slowly. The human male sat against the wall, his back still marked with bruises from the falling panel. His weapon lay beside him, silent. The female soldier sat nearby, her blade resting across her knees. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. They had fought together too many times to require words. Their silence was its own language. Zyra stared at them, her throat dry. Her whole life she had been taught one truth. Strength rules. Only the strong lead. Only the strong survive. Yet here were two humans who had broken every rule she had ever known, yet survived stronger than any she had seen. Finally, Zyra's voice cracked through the silence. You risked yourself again and again. You could have left me. You could have saved yourself, but you didn't. Why? The male soldier raised his tired eyes to her. His answer came softly. Because our way is not to leave others behind, especially not our women. You may not be human, Zyra, but in that moment, you were female. And to us, that means you go first. Zyra's claws dug into the floor. She wanted to fight his words. She wanted to laugh, to spit, to deny. But her chest trembled, and no sound came. The female soldier leaned forward, her gaze sharp but not unkind. You think it is weakness, but you saw it yourself. Trust, respect, honor. They do not make us weak. They make us stronger. Together, we are more than just warriors. Zyra closed her eyes. Images flashed in her mind, the male holding up the collapsing ceiling, his arms straining, but his will unbroken. The female walking across the burning beam first, steady, even, in danger. Both of them fighting side by side, not for glory, not for dominance, but for each other. Her people would never understand. They would laugh at the thought of stepping aside for another. They would sneer at the idea of giving honor without victory. But deep inside, Zyra felt the truth she could no longer ignore. She opened her eyes. For the first time in her life, she lowered her head, a bow. Not forced, not demanded, but given freely. Perhaps your way is not weakness. Perhaps it is strength I never understood. The humans exchanged a glance. Then the male gave a small smile. Understanding is the first step. Change comes after. Zyra's heart tightened. Change. The word felt heavier than any weapon. Could she return to her people and tell them what she had seen? Could she stand before her warlords and say, females first? They would call her a traitor. They would tear her apart. And yet, she could not go back the same. The seed of doubt was planted, and it was growing. The female soldier stood and offered Zyra her hand. Her voice was steady, almost kind. One day, you may teach your people. One day, they may see what you saw here. Zyra hesitated, then slowly reached out her clawed hand. Their fingers touched, human flesh and alien scale meeting not as enemies, but as something else, something new. The male soldier pushed himself to his feet. He winced at the pain in his back, but his eyes stayed sharp. He looked at Zyra and spoke the final words she knew would never leave her mind. Strength is not only in the one who leads. Sometimes the greatest strength is in the one who chooses to follow, and the one who is honored enough to go first. Silence filled the chamber again, but it was no longer heavy with confusion. It was heavy with possibility. Zyra lifted her head, her eyes drawn to the ceiling where the stars beyond the ship glimmered faintly through small cracks of light. For the first time, she wondered not about victory, not about survival, but about change. Would her people ever accept this human way? Would they laugh until their laughter turned to silence? Or would they fight it until they saw, as she had, that it was not weakness at all? She didn't know, but as she stood beside the humans, her voice whispered into the silence, a vow only she could hear. One day, I will carry this truth to my people, and whether they mock me or kill me, they will hear it. Females first. Humans. Showed me why. The humans said nothing. They only stood with her, shoulder to shoulder, three warriors who had survived together. Outside, the stars waited. And somewhere deep inside, Zyra knew her world would never look the same again.